everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Madeline from KnittingHouseSquare, and today I'm going to be taking you through a few different skills. So in my previous video this week, I showed you the one color Italian cast on, which is perfect for one color brioche. Now today, we're taking it one step further and we're going to be doing the two color Italian cast on. So that's this down here at the bottom, and you can see the nice thing about this cast on method is it creates a really nice clean edge, and it's also incredibly stretchy. So to start off, I'm going to be showing you the two color Italian cast on. Then we're going to work the two setup rows for two color brioche, or really just one setup row, but we work it in each color. Then I'm going to show you the repeat rows to continue the pattern. So there's different numbers of stitches you need to cast on for various brioche patterns. The one I'm showing you today starts and ends with a knit stitch. And what this does is it creates a really nice clean edge up both of the sides. All the video timestamps will be down below, so if there's just a certain part of the video you're interested in, you can fast forward or rewind to that part of the video. And if you're interested in seeing the written version of these instructions, I'm going to have those linked down below. Because I found, just for myself personally, it's more helpful to have the written versions as well to follow along with, as well as listening to the narrations. If you're new to my channel, don't forget that red subscribe button, that way you stay up to date on all my future videos. And let's get started. To start out, we're going to begin with a slip knot. So the slip knot is going to use both of the strands of yarn. So I'm going to grab both strands, line up the ends here, just unwind a bit. Now I want to lay both strands over my left hand so the tails are down here at the bottom, working yarn's coming out up over the top. I'm going to grab onto both strands with my bottom 3 fingers. And now I just want to wrap the yarn up over my finger, back behind, down below the bottom, up to the top again, back behind down to the bottom, up to the top again, down below to the bottom, and grab onto those strands as well. So now it's almost like you have 2.5 loops going around your finger. So to create the slip knot, we just need to rearrange these loops. So I'm going to take this second set of loops and I'm going to bring it up over the top. So now I basically have a new first set and a new second set. Now again, I'm going to take this new second set and I'm going to bring these ones up over the top again. Now I'm going to take that newest second set and I'm going to slide it off my finger. So now I've created a slip knot with both of those strands. So I'm going to slide this slip knot right onto one of my knitting needle points. Now when I hold on to this, I'm going to basically grab onto the tail with my right hand and hold this stitch in place with my right index finger. Next up, I need to decide how I want to hold my yarn. So you want to decide what color you want to be the more prominent color on the front side of your work. So what color do you want to end up being those knit stitches on either side and the knit stitches in the center? So for me, I'm going to choose my dark pink as that color. So I'm going to have the dark pink further away from me and then the gray yarn closest to me. Okay, so now I'm all set up to have my colors where the dark pink, or the one furthest away from me, is going to be the one that shows up as knit stitches on the front side of my work. And the gray yarn, which is closest to me, is going to be the background or those purl stitches on the front side of my work. So now I'm going to grab onto both of those strands with my left hand. And similarly to the long tail or German twisted cast on, we're going to push away on the further away color with our pointer finger. And we're going to push towards ourselves on our thumb onto the color that's closest to us. So again, we're creating that same diamond shape that you see in a lot of the long tail cast-ons. So we're going to begin with a knit stitch. So to create the knit stitch on our knitting needle, we're going to take our knitting needle, we're going to go towards ourselves, down the front, down below the strand closest to us, come back up the center. Now we're going to go back behind the strand that's furthest away from us, down below that strand. Going to come underneath both of the strands towards ourselves, then arrive all the way back up at the center again. So that created our first stitch on the knitting needle, because again, our slip knot doesn't count as one of the stitches. So we have one stitch now on there, and that first stitch is gonna be a knit stitch. Now we need to create a purl stitch. So to create the purl stitch, we're gonna go far away from us, over the top of all the strands, back behind, down to the bottom, go underneath both of the strands, all the way towards ourselves, come up the front, down the center, below that back strand, up to the top again. So now we've created a purl stitch with the color closest to us. So now all we need to do is we need to keep on alternating between those two stitches. So again, I'm going to do another knit stitch. So I'm going to go towards myself, in front of that strand that's closest to me, down below to the bottom, up the center, back behind the strand that's furthest away from me, down below. I'm gonna come underneath both of the strands, towards myself, up to the top again. So now we can see we've created a knit stitch with the yarn that's furthest away from us. Now again, to show the purl stitch, I'm gonna go back behind both of the strands, underneath both of them, towards myself, up the front to the top, down the center, back behind the strand that's furthest away from me, back up to the top again. So now I have a total of 4 stitches on there, and now I'm just going to keep on alternating between those two. And so what I'm showing you, it starts and ends with a knit stitch. So I'm going to stop alternating 1 stitch before the number I would want to have. So I'm going to do knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, all the way across, and then I'll show you how to finish off with that last knit stitch. But for now, I'm just going to go nice and slow so you can follow along. So I need a knit stitch next. Now a purl stitch. Knit stitch. Purl stitch. Knit stitch. Purl stitch. And I will have the full written version of these instructions down below, because sometimes I find it's easier to read the instructions rather than follow along with the narrated tutorial. So that way, if you wanted to pair those written instructions with this video, that may be helpful. Okay, so now I'm all ready to begin that last knit stitch that I want to put on my knitting needle. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to rotate my hands clockwise, 180 degrees. So basically my thumb used to be closest to me. I'm going to rotate it up so my thumb's furthest away from me. Now I'm going to pinch on to where those 2 yarns are twisted. I'm going to drop them. And now, just using this strand that's furthest away from me, I'm going to take my thumb. I'm going to put my thumb on the left side of that strand of yarn, then loop my thumb down below that strand towards myself, up to the top again. So I basically just made 1 loop around my thumb. Now I'm going to take my knitting needle, go underneath that loop on my thumb, slide the knitting needle up my thumb, slide the loop off and onto the knitting needle. So now we've secured those final 2 stitches so that they don't go anywhere. So next up, we're ready to begin our actual setup and repeat rows. So I'm going to turn my work to begin those. And when you're checking your work after you've turned it, the things you want to look for are, first, you want to make sure you have an odd number of stitches total. So here mine should begin and end with whatever color you would furthest away from you. And then it should alternate between the two colors. So let me just double check that that one's okay. Yep. So it alternates between the two colors going all the way across. And the next thing you can notice about it is that it should alternate between the stitches having a bump at the bottom and not having a bump at the bottom. So when I look at this side of the work, the yarn that was furthest away from me, so this dark pink color, always has this bump at the bottom, whereas the yarn that was closest to me doesn't have those bumps at the bottom. So that again goes back to those knit and purl stitches that we were doing the different movements for. Okay, so this cast on looks good. So now when we actually work the setup and repeat rows, there's a couple things we want to keep in mind. So first, for each row in brioche, two-color brioche, we have to work across it twice. So basically I'm going to take my first color and work across it. Then I'm going to slide my work back over to my other knitting needle and I'm going to take my second color and work across it in the exact same direction. So we're going to go from right to left on this side 2 times. 1 time with each color. The same thing will happen again when we turn our work to work the next row. We're gonna have to work across it 2 times. So when we work across this first row, the color you wanna start with is gonna be whatever color you have as this outside knit stitch. So that's gonna be the color you always wanna start with. So I'm gonna be starting with my pink color yarn. So to start with my pink, I'm going to put my knitting needle in my first stitch to purl it. And now I have a little repeat I need to work. So I need to slip 1 stitch, so that's going to be the gray stitch for me. Then I need to do a yarn over, purl 1. Then I need to slip the next stitch, yarn over, purl 1. Slip the next stitch, yarn over, purl 1. And I'm going to continue this all the way across. So I'm going to finish with that final purl 1. And now I'm just going to drop that slip knot off of my knitting needle. So now what I need to do is I need to slide all these stitches. So I just grab onto all of them with my right hand and I'm just gonna pull on my cord so that my stitches end up on my opposite knitting needle again. I'm just gonna turn it so all my cast on bumps are down towards the table. So next up, we're gonna work that same row with the next color yarn. And the stitches are gonna be different this time as well, because instead of working those purl stitches, we're gonna be working knit stitches. So first, we're gonna slip the first stitch purlwise. Then we're gonna bring our yarn to the back, and we're gonna work what's called a brioche knit. So a brioche knit is where we work that existing stitch together with the yarn over. So basically we're just knitting those 2 strands together. So that's called a brioche knit, and sometimes in a pattern it's written as a bark, a B-R-K. Now we have a repeat. So we're gonna bring our yarn to the front, we're gonna slip 1 stitch, and then we're gonna work a brioche knit. So I'm gonna knit the next 2 strands together. So basically what bringing the yarn to the front did there is it created a new yarn over on that previous stitch. Now again, I'm gonna bring my yarn to the front. I'm gonna slip 1 purlwise, and now I'm gonna work a brioche knit. Bring my yarn to the front, slip 1 purlwise, work a brioche knit. And I'm gonna continue this all the way across until the final stitch. Now for this last stitch, I'm just gonna bring my yarn to the front and just slip it purlwise. And that's all I need to do there. So now I'm gonna turn my work. And now that we worked across that previous row 2 times, we've completed it. So we're gonna turn our work to begin the regular repeat rows. So now that this side of the work is facing us again, so this is the same side where we cast on across, this is going to be the right side of our work. And we know it's the right side because when we're going to look at it, we're going to see 2 columns of knit stitches start to appear on the outer edges. So again, on this side, we're going to have to work across it 2 times. And I'm going to start with the color that makes up that knit stitch on the outer edge. So I'm going to start with my pink yarn. So first, I'm going to knit the first stitch. Then I have a repeat. So here, I'm going to bring my yarn to the front. I'm going to slip 1, and then I'm going to work a brioche knit. Then again, bring my yarn to the front, slip 1, brioche knit. And I'm going to continue this all the way across until 2 stitches remain. So now that there's 2 stitches remaining there, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my yarn to the front, slip 1, and then just knit that final stitch. Now I need to rework this row using the second color. So again, I'm going to grab onto all my stitches, slide them over to my other knitting needle point. So now in this second color, I'm going to slip the first stitch purlwise. Then I'm going to work what's called a brioche purl. So I need to bring my yarn to the front. Then I'm just going to purl the next stitch and that previous yarn over together. Now I need to do a slip 1. So I'm going to slip the next stitch purlwise, do a full yarn over, then work another brioche purl. So purl the next stitch and the yarn over together. Slip 1, yarn over, brioche purl, slip 1, yarn over, brioche purl, slip 1, yarn over, all the way across until 2 stitches remain. Now for the final 2 stitches, we're going to work 1 more brioche purl, then I'm just going to slip that final stitch. And I'm going to leave that gray yarn right where it ends up closest to me in my work right there. So we just worked across both of those colors on the front side of our work. That's the first part of the repeat. Then when you turn your work and we're looking at the wrong side of our work, you can tell it's the wrong side because the knit stitches are the other color yarn. When we're on the wrong side of our work, again, we're going to work across in the 2 different colors, and that's going to make up the second repeat row. So again, we're going to start off with our pink color yarn, or the one closest to us. We're going to work a purl 1, and now we have a repeat. So we're going to slip 1, yarn over, brioche purl together. Slip 1, yarn over, brioche purl together, all the way across this row. Now the final 2 stitches, I'm going to slip 1, yarn over, and then just purl the final stitch. Now we have to work across this side in our second color, so I'm going to slide them over the other needle point. And now pick up the gray color. So here we're going to slip the first stitch purlwise. Then we have a repeat of a brioche knit. We're going to bring our yarn to the front, then slip 1, work another brioche knit, yarn to the front, slip 1, brioche knit, yarn to the front, slip 1, brioche knit, and I'm going to repeat until 2 stitches remain. Now for these final 2, and really I guess you could say it's 3 stitches because we also have that yarn over in there, I'm going to work a brioche knit and then just slip that final stitch. Now I can turn my work and I'll have the front side of my work facing me again. And I know it's the front side because I can see those pink knit stitches on either edges, and in the center are making up the dominant color there. And then we have the gray in the background. So now I've continued repeating those 2 repeat rows over and over again just for a little bit so I can show you what the work looks like. So you can see on either side, when I have the front side of my work facing up, I have the columns of knit stitches down either side, so that just creates a nice clean edge. And then we can see the color that's out in front is going to be my dark pink. When I turn my work to the wrong side of my work, we can see the dark pink is the background color and the gray is the more color that we see here with those knit stitches. So again, as you're working the repeat rows, the one thing you want to keep in mind is that you have to work across each row in each color. So first I worked across in my dark pink, then I worked across in my gray. Then I'm able to turn my work, and on the wrong side of my work, first I worked across in that dark pink, then I worked across in that gray. So really, to make those 2 rows, you kind of have to do 4 rows. Hopefully that made sense. So down in the description box below, you're going to find the full written version of the pattern. That way, if you want to follow along with the text written version as I'm knitting in this video, you may find that helpful. Also, if you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that red subscribe button. That way you stay up to date on all my future videos.